Except for the
5
traffic
days
around
in.
here, right? Except for trying to get to this building.
That might be the biggest challenge of
Yeah,
the day.
right? It's crazy.
Took me a roundabout, had to do the roundabout today to get in here.
It's crazy.
Harbaugh was saying on Pardon My Take podcast that this might be the fastest he's seen a Michigan defensive line. What are your early impressions?
Concur with Coach. I think we're running the ball well. I think we're developing depth. I think that's an ongoing process, but we're certainly getting some flashes there that are exceptional for sure. Aiden Hutchinson, I think, is playing really well along with Quiddy. Donovan Jeter, probably the most improved guy that I could speak on behalf would be Carlo Kemp. Stronger, way faster, confident, just body language and the whole deal, leadership, really playing at a high level. So Ben Mason, vastly improved, obviously, as a former running back, fullback, running back, tight end, whatever you want to call him. But we put him into that mix, and we feel good about him. I mentioned Jeter, Carlo, still working our way through a little bit from a health standpoint with Mike Dwumfor, but he's practiced and done well. I think he'll just kind of take off. But, we feel like we got 4 pretty good players inside there, including Mike. Trying to develop some depth there. Marzi Smith, Chris Hinton as the young guys. So, and Mike Dana. Mike Dana's doing a good job. He certainly has jumped right in, had a really good summer. Kudos to Coach Herbert again. He probably owes him a kiss on the lips because he went from 240 to 260, and we're seeing the fruits of that hard work. So Luigi Villain, healthy, made it through all the spring, and has made it through the first 5 practices and doing some good things. We're starting to see a few things out of Taylor Upshaw as well. So speed-wise, depth-wise, we feel like we're going to be 8 or 9, 10 guys deep there.
With the corners, with Ambry limited a little bit, are you worried about the depth there at all?
Am I worried about it? And you're always worried
yeah.
about it, especially if somebody else goes down. But no, I think the general play. Vincent Gray is a player, so that's a real positive. I feel like we just did the flip, because LeVert sat out a bunch in the spring. Well, he's back and playing like LeVert Hill, so that's a real positive. So Vincent, LeVert Hill, Jalen Kelly Powell has just continued to improve, has put himself, in firmly entrenched in the 2 deep. So feel good about that. And Brad Hawkins, we've kind of utilized his coverage ability as well, on the slot some. So we've got ways to go ahead and make our adjustments there. And really happy with the way those guys have performed.
Do you have an update on Ambry by any chance?
Yeah, moving forward, working on the side, following all the trainer's orders and the doctor's orders, but all systems are positive moving forward.
Great.
How quickly do you think he can move back into a major role?
Probably not an answer I can really give you. I'm not equipped to give you. He's in doctor care and all those things, so that's between the trainers and Coach Harbaugh and Ambry. So I'm not really equipped to give you that answer.
And Dwumfor, you mentioned he was a little?
Just a little bit. He practiced the first few days. We sat him up, but we expect him back tomorrow. So there's nothing really major there.
You mentioned depth on the defensive line, losing Chase and Rashawn. How does getting a guy like Mike Dana help kind of the experience of that group and the younger guys moving forward?
When you gain a player of that quality, it always helps. And it takes the pressure off a little bit with, the younger guys having to force feed them and jam them into a role maybe they're not quite ready for. So he's a mature guy. He's a tough guy. He's a hard-working guy. So he's just brought kind of a nice maturity to the group. We could put him right in the mix now. You got Aiden, you got Quiddy Pay, and you got Mike Dana right off the get-go. So, that's kind of a nice, three-man deal. Don't forget Uche plays some defensive end, and we're bringing Luigi and Taylor along. So we're gonna we'll have enough guys there. How that thing is all gonna shake out depth-wise and so forth. Really can't give you an answer. We're just 5 practices in.
Don, we've heard a lot about Dyson Hill's speed. How's that train? I know it's early. How's that train?
Good, yeah, I think there's, DJ Turner, Daxton Hill, Anthony Solomon, those are 3 really good players. There was one snap yesterday, they were all lined up on one side of the field, kind of in coverage, and I'm like, wow. And they, ball got snapped and guys were moving, and I'm saying, those 3 guys are pretty nifty, so that's, I look at those guys as, real bright stars for the future of Michigan football.
And I know some of these guys are in the NBA, so the personnel or sorry, the NFL, a little different. Personnel.
Wait a minute, I gotta
that
say
would be
something,
interesting.
speaking of the NFL.
Yes.
Talked to Chase yesterday. Coach Belichick hasn't punched him in the mouth yet, so that's a great thing right there now.
Did you ever punch him in the mouth?
Close, close.
But obviously, some of the guys from your defense last year are now
Hey.
are now in the NFL. But like for a lot of these guys, just with the taste of how last season ended, like are they itching to get back on the field?
Well-
Is there like a redemption thing or?
I'm just gonna tell you how I addressed it with the players. Can I do that?
Yeah.
If you look at our season, regular season, that's all I'm talking about. The first 19 minutes of the regular season were not very good for Michigan defense. The next 10-game stretch was pretty damn good. And then we got 19 minutes left in the Ohio State game, and it's a 7-point game or an 8-point game, 26-19, whatever it is. And the last 17 minutes weren't very good. If we would have just squeezed out the first 19 and the last 19, which is probably the result of, the things that we can control, 5 drives, might have been a historic year. Well, it wasn't, okay? So what are you gonna do about it? You gotta squeeze out the first 19, you gotta squeeze out the last 19. That means mentally you gotta be tougher. That means, from a preparation standpoint, we gotta be better. That means from my standpoint, we have to be better. So, that's really the challenge. But when you think about it for a minute, right? First 19, last 19. And, then where would you have been? So, in the middle, in between all that, this 10-plus games of pretty good football now. So we just got to get ourselves back into that mode and take whatever challenges that we perceive them as individuals and as a group, and make sure that we squeeze out, those negative ends.
What are the challenges when you have a lot of these, guys like Josh Ross replacing Devin Bush and some others in those different positions? What challenges is it to get those guys?
Well,
up to
first
that
off,
challenge?
it's not a challenge to coach Josh Ross. He's the brightest linebacker I've been around in a long time. Even when he was injured in spring, this guy knows his stuff. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, like you don't have to worry about what kind of a day's work you're going to get out of Josh Ross. I'm going to say this to you. Ross, Cam McGrone, okay, those 2 guys, Glasgow, Devin Gill, and Jordan Anthony. Those 5 guys can play a lot of places in this country. Let me just tell you that, okay? They're very good football players, and I feel like we got 5 guys. This is probably the most depth I've had. Now, with 5 practices in, everybody's on their feet practicing. So, when you think about that, let the competition just go. Isn't it a beautiful thing when 5 guys can play 2 positions? So, you're not playing at your best? Sorry, we got to roll here. So, it's a good competition, and really probably one of the greatest linebacker rooms, or, you know, obviously I had all the years coaching DBs, one of the greatest rooms in terms of attention to detail, guys wanting to be good and improvement. We feel like we got 5 guys that can run there, and every one of them's improved from a year ago through spring going into the fall.
What's the safety group look like right now?
Josh Metellus is playing at an extremely high level, I think giving quality and maturity to the group. Him and Brad Hawkins are neck and neck. They're both, you know, in it. Who's 1, who's 2, who's our best safety, who's our second best? You know, I can't really tell you that. The third safety right now is Jamerick Woods, and he's playing a lot of football for us and a vastly improved football player. And then you got a bunch of other guys that are in competition. You know, Sammy Foston would be one, Hunter Reynolds would be one. You know, obviously, you know, Dyson Hill is a guy on the, you know, that's on our radar and has practiced extremely well. But again, you know, he's a true freshman 5 practices in. But, you know, we're feeling pretty good about the way that, you know, the top end of that safety group looks.
Back to the squeezing those 19 minutes out. What does that look like for a coach?
Well, we had a guy thrown out of the Notre Dame game early. We had 3 penalties, and we gave up 17 points. And then at the 8-minute mark, or whatever it was of the second quarter, through the rest of the game, we ended up giving up 7 points and 62 yards. So, you know, obviously, adjustments made, guys settling in, you know, and then adjusting it to the speed of the game and so forth. And, you know, gave ourselves a chance, because at that point, you know, at one point there was 17-0, I believe. So, you know, that's what you're searching for, that kind of performance from a Michigan defense, okay? The last part of it, you know, same deal. You know, you're 26-19, all of a sudden, block punt, interception on the 14, they go in and score. That's what we've got to find a way to minimize that damage and hold it to a field goal. Then we give up the jet sweep, and then another interception, lo and behold, the ball's on the 14. You got to find a way to hold that to a field goal. So, you know, I'm not going to keep reliving it. It's really more of a mindset in making sure when the game goes like this, when they go like this year in game 1, that we don't have the same kind of an adjustment process early in the game. And that's really what I'm searching for. And hard work, facing adversity in practice at times, and all those things that go into it really, you know, try to make sure that your guys are settled when adversity strikes.
John, where do you see Josh Uche fitting in? Can he be an every down type of player for you?
Yeah, he can. You know, for us, the good thing about him is he's, you know, he can do a lot of stuff. And in the NFL, you know, when he finally gets there someday, he'll do a lot of stuff. So, you know, it's the same, it's going to be the same type of a scenario. He can play defensive end. He can play Sam linebacker, and that's really his, you know, his number 1 position. And then he's got all the pass rush, you know, scenarios that we utilize him in on 3rd down. Now, I don't know if there's a better substitute pass rusher in the country than this guy. But he's, you know, during the course of this, he's grown and become a very accomplished Sam linebacker. And with the graduation of Noah Furbush, that's one of his major roles as well.
Don, not to take it back to last year, but do you understand the skepticism of fans? And does it fuel you guys? You talk about those big games.
I don't have time for skepticism. I don't have any time for that to affect anything that happens in our room. Do I evaluate? Have we adjusted schematically? Yes, but let's not make any bones about it. If you would have brought, let's say, who's a good defensive mind? Bring Kirby Smart in here and ask him how you're going to stop RPOs. Ask him what I bet I know what he's going to say, okay? So, you know, Here's the big thing. Have your beliefs. Have your convictions. That's what fuels you. If people don't like that, then somebody else will be doing my job, and I'll be back at Cape Cod. But for 3 years, we built our reputation here defensively on aggressive. Like every other coach in the country, you have to evaluate, you have to adjust on a week-to-week basis. The one thing that I can tell you is we're more prepared versatility-wise in coverage, but the aggressive nature will never change. And in fact, I'd like it to be more aggressive.
Do you have any comparables for Dyson Hill? I mean, maybe someone you've coached in the past, or someone in college football right now?
He's kind of a unique guy. So, I had a safety that I think he's going to end up playing like a guy by the name of James Ahedabu, who played for me at UMass in 2006 and ended up playing, 11 years in the NFL. I think he's kind of that kind of guy, a little bit, probably not quite as tall, but very long-limbed, can run, can rush, can really explode on contact, and, I see that in him, but obviously...
Still early.
Yeah, that poor guy's working his way through the bridge program and in playing football at the same time, which is no easy task, as we know.
You brought up the RPO element. Your offense is doing more of that now.
Yeah,
What
it's
kind
good.
of stress does that put on a defense?
Well, the bottom line is, there's an element in the run game, whether it be an inside type zone or an outside type zone. You have an element where there could be some QB run involved, or they're throwing the ball. So, it requires you to be sound in your run fits and get those guys covered. Well, in most zone coverages, you ain't getting those guys covered because guys are fitting in the run games where they're supposed to fit in the zone deal. So, that's a concern, as a defensive coordinator. You got to be making sure that, you have enough guys to handle the run game, and the numbers is more important, and obviously get those guys covered, and I said this after the spring, and I'm going to say it to you again. Our back seven is as in sync as any group I've been around in terms of coverage, understanding, and what we're trying to get done. You just, keep your fingers crossed, we keep that up moving forward, and we stay healthy so those guys are the right guys getting on the field.
I know you're not looking past MTSU, but you got Army again and the Service Academy. Did you start preparing for that in the off season again?
Last spring.
Okay.
Every day. So, that's all you can do is prepare your tail off for it, and make sure that when you get to game week, your guys, they already have the plan. Now let's go execute it at a high level.
With the new offense in general, though, is it beneficial for these guys to see it now, so it's not a shock during the season?
It's a beautiful thing,
Yeah.
Obviously, the Coach Gaddis is doing a good job installing his offense, and a lot of the things that, that we see from other people on a week-to-week basis. So, it's kind of like you're getting a scouting report, and you're able to, practice your concepts and techniques and fundamentals, in a semi-non-pressured environment.
You said more prepared versatility-wise and coverage. How much of an overhaul was it? I mean, how much did you tweak? I mean, what does that mean?
Just some additions, some additional pieces to make sure we have specific areas of the field covered. So, kind of that way. That could be a man concept with the droppers. It could be a zone concept. We've gone about done our due diligence, and very comfortable where I'm at right now.
How much does this offense complement this defense?
We'll find out. We're 5 days in. I think there's a high chance that, this can help both sides of it. We got to do ours, but it comes down to, we got a job to do. Our job is to, do a good job getting the run game stopped, handle the first, second down, get the third down, get off the field, and give the guys on the other side the football. That doesn't change. that's the whole key, you know. To do that, in my opinion, you need to have an aggressive manner to do it. So, you know, on a down-to-down basis and be very good on third down. And those are the goals that our guys have. Get the ball back to our offense and good things will happen.
All right, guys, we're
Thanks,
gonna
Coach.
Okay?
shift over to the offense.